I hear Babysitter's Club. All I can think of is the all-time classic scene in one of the greatest movies of all time.
You pay this woman to sit on babies? That's disgusting.
I do it for nothing.
What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. This Friday, The Babysitter's Club drops on Netflix. Today, we are going to talk about it in non-spoiler fashion, and I'm going to tell you guys if it's worth watching or not. So be sure to leave those comments down below. Are you excited for the show? If you enjoy these Netflix reviews, hit that thumbs up button, and let's get right into it. So, in The Babysitter's Club on Netflix, the show begins with a picture-perfect Connecticut town with determined Kristy starting the Babysitter's Club as a way to hang out with her best friend Marianne, reconnect with Claudia, and make some money while they're at it. So we have Stacy, Marianne, Kristy, Claudia, and Dawn as our main 5 cast members here, and I was excited about the Babysitter's Club, although I'll say this, I'm not as familiar with the novels. I've never seen the original TV show that they attempted back in the day, but I have seen the movie, so at least I have something to compare it to, even though it's been quite a while. Now, if you guys want to hear spoilers for this show, we're going to talk about that on either Friday or Saturday, so stay tuned. But in terms of knowing, is this show worth watching or not? Yes. Yes, it is. And I say this with such confidence and slight urgency, and not that I'm the target audience specifically. I'm a 24-year-old male. This is aimed more towards maybe younger girls and maybe a younger crowd in general, but that doesn't mean it's not a good show. This show knows exactly who its target audience is, but it doesn't cater to them and act like they're younger than maybe they are mentally. It says, hey, we know you all are smart. We know you can understand that these kids are going to go through struggles and troubles, and maybe on the outside it doesn't look like it's going to be the most emotional of shows, but it honestly doesn't refrain from getting emotional when it has to. And I think part of that is the fact that you have really impressive producers and writers from projects such as The Social Network, Glow, and of course the original Babysitter's Club. At its core, it is this happy and semi-joyful show surrounding these 5 girls. Not necessarily how they all meet each other and the backstory within that, but how they come together and form this club that obviously becomes the through line of the story. And anytime that phone rings and they get a job opportunity, it is exciting for both the girls and the audience. But it's more about friendship and how their friendships individually develop throughout the show and how they can all come together at the end of the day and be not just a club, but a group of friends that are learning from each other and becoming better and stronger women because of that. And I really like that. And I like the messages that this show holds for kids. Now, I do believe in getting into a couple of criticisms. There are times when the show goes in maybe a bit too of a melodramatic territory, and it does hit some of those notes that I think these Netflix shows that fall flat at the end of the day hit, and I was worried that maybe they would continue with that throughout the show, and there will definitely be scenes in here where people are scoffing and rolling their eyes and like, come on, guys. But overall, I mean, at its core, the show doesn't do anything that really got under my skin in terms of writing. I think the script is really concrete, and again, this is a show that is directed towards even a younger crowd than me, but it's also a show that you can sit down with your entire family, watch, have fun with, and it does a great job at that. So The Babysitter's Club, if you know what you're in for with this show and you are that intended audience, I think this could be one of your favorite shows on Netflix. And I compare this to something like, you know, and I grew up with these kinds of shows on Nickelodeon and the Disney channels. You have the laughing track in the background and character interactions that are a bit cringe as you grow up and you go back and you watch it. This show hits the same crowd, but it's so adult comparing it to those other shows. If you think about this as a show for kids in a way, but it can really affect anyone at any age because of what it's dealing with. And we're dealing with some really tragic things if you think about it. Divorce between parents, personal problems that these girls have that I can't dive into just yet because Netflix told me to refrain from those types of spoilers, but we'll definitely talk about those. Grandparents and their impact on how you grow up and how you live your life. And I'm talking specifically about Claudia's grandma. Some of my favorite parts of this show was when we got to spend time with her and how this entire group kind of falls in love with her. But it's the relationship between Claudia and her grandma. It's the relationship between Kristy and her mom, Elizabeth, played by Alicia Silverstone, and the fact that there is a new guy in her mother's life. She's having to deal with that and the fallout with her father. Marianne, the fact that she has a new friend come into her life and how that affects her relationship with Kristy. Stacy and her issues, her underlying problems with her family. Like all of these different storylines, and on the outside it may seem like it's a bit much for a show for kids, but no, it all works so well. And this is just a charming show. And I hate to use that word because it's such an easy word to use, but it is. It's charming, and you watch it and you have this joy in your heart like, oh, I'm just rooting for their club. I'm rooting for them to succeed. And when things come into play and start to affect that, like the Babysitters Agency, a group of older kids who basically steal the idea from the Babysitters Club, and it's this fight for, okay, are the parents going to come to us? Are the parents going to go to them because they're older? And on the outside, it's like, oh, yeah, older kids. Obviously, I'm going to trust them more. But you start to learn more about these girls. It's like, no, we should want the Babysitters Club because of how responsible these girls are, especially for their age. So how are they going to convince the parents across the town to come to them? Mary Ann at one point gets a phone, which is so funny because I had this phone as a kid. You could only call your dad, I think your mom, 911, because she gets in trouble. It's all of these small, relatable moments, whether it's getting in trouble for something silly, what Stacy is going through in the show, how other girls are responding to that, Dawn coming into this situation and trying to establish herself as part of the group. It's like every girl has a different struggle individually, and then you have this supporting cast that is just really good around those girls. And I know what you're thinking. Austin, you're going to sit here and tell me that Babysitter's Club is one of the better shows on Netflix. I think this show knows exactly what it is, and I think it has this heartfelt nature to it that a lot of fans going into it knowing what they're in for are going to respond to, and I think that's really important when you're talking about a show like this. So before I get to my score, thank you guys for watching, for leaving your comments, all of those things. Stay tuned because a spoiler review is coming. This show knows exactly what it is, and I really appreciate that. Because of that, going an 8 out of 10, an 80% for the Babysitters Club. Really sweet show on Netflix, and I encourage you guys, if you are fans of the source material, again, I don't have the biggest connection, but I can only assume that you're going to appreciate it. There were moments when the cast, didn't necessarily hit the notes that they had to hit, but these are young actresses, and the fact that they were as good as they were really impresses me. So thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you soon.